Welcome back to the Nerdrotic Podcast. My name is Gary Buechler. I come to you from nerdrotic.com, and I'm live in San Francisco. And down in LA, I'm with my co-host, Jon Reed.
What's up, man? What's up? How's it going?
A little technical difficulties starting out, but it was a learning experience, and I love learning experiences. So I know that if I start a live stream on another computer, I have to be on that computer. I can't use the other computer. So I had to shut that off and start this one. So here we are. I saw some of you were in waiting. So if we had to kick you out, sorry about that, but we are back. And we are back with Star Trek Discovery. It has returned sooner than we thought.
It's back. Yeah.
Well, I guess I read it wrong. I had always read it that it was coming back at the end of the month for some reason, but I guess it was always coming back today, and I just didn't notice it. So
it seemed quick, but it's back. So yay! And honestly, I think I really liked this episode tonight. It was one of I like that we've gotten into the mirror universe, and the show's just more compelling right now than it was. Maybe they made some tweaks based on fan feedback. Spoiler, this is going to be a spoiler filled thing. It's going to be all about, we're going to spoil everything up and through this episode that we watched tonight. I can't hear myself. There we go. And we got a character death. I texted you at the beginning and I was like, man, Stamets' boyfriend, that actor is just awful. I can't take it. And then all of a sudden he bit it, half of the way through the episode. And, you don't want characters to, you don't want people to die, but I'm not terribly upset about that character leaving the show, and it should have some interesting ramifications when Stamets comes back to himself at some point in the series. And I think that they've just made some really interesting tweaks to the show, to me anyway, this episode, and I had a lot of fun with it. What about you, Gary? Did you like this one?
I have to preface it by saying I take, these episodes one episode at a time. So overall, I've had huge problems with the series, and they are well documented, and they are the same problems that a lot of other people have. But tonight was a pretty decent episode, and if they stick with what they're going to do, I think they could actually fix this show. If they stick in the mirror universe and never come back and just stay there, and we'll get in the weeds on that one. I am kind of okay with it. And with the Doctor's death, I'm forgetting his name, and that's how kind of forgettable he was. Plus, it's been a month since the show started. So
right.
And by the way, these are visceral reactions. We just watched the show, so we don't have time our theories come to us as we're talking to you. So
and each other. It's this thing where we haven't even digested what happened, and we're kind of doing it live on the air. So sometimes we make mistakes.
Totally I love it. Yeah. So his death was shocking. I was kind of right up into it. I mean, we're gonna jump right to it. When Tyler was talking to him, I'm like, dude, you better get out of there. And I noticed that the other person wasn't in the medical bay with them. And I'm like, uh-oh. And then, he did. I was, what? So I was a little shocked with that. And I thought that was, I don't think a lot of people have a lot of problems with anybody dying in this show. Maybe the entire cast. I don't know. But if you stuck with us this far, I'm pretty sure you aren't hate watching and you like the show. And I did like this episode. I did.
Yeah. So I also thought another little message that I had made to Gary was just because I don't, for me, I know this, some of the Star Trek movies. I watched The Next Generation. I've watched some of the original series. I'm more of a just genre fan than a Star Trek fan, right? I enjoy Star Trek when I see it, but I haven't been I don't know the ins and outs of the mirror universe. So I had texted you at one point. I was like, oh man, this is going to be rough. I don't want to get too political about this stuff. And you're like, no, that's how the mirror universe is. It's this fascist regime and all. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. At least they're sticking to what it is. And maybe they're, thinking that it's reflective of the times. But I like that I also thought it was funny that it's the Empire. It just felt very, the mirror universe itself seems almost derivative, but it's like what set like the original, right? What other things are based off of, rather than being derivative in and of itself. So I think it's really interesting to see like history come full circle in this meta way through the Star Trek episode. I don't know if you felt the same thing, but I definitely did.
I'd have to watch it again. I think I've watched all the Mirror Universe episodes, even the one in Enterprise, and they I don't know, they kind of dance around it almost, except for the main one in the original series. But they also they threw in, there's a couple other things they threw in from the original series, and they're doing this. You mentioned fan service, and I think they're, hey, they filmed this all at once, so it's not like they filmed this during the break and listened to all the fans. But I think they heard the criticism before from the trailer.
Yeah.
Okay, mainly from the trailer, and maybe changed some things and maybe did some editing. Who knows? They could have done some reshoots over this time. I don't think they did, but it definitely seems like maybe, I don't know.
They usually film 6 episodes ahead, right? 6 to 8 episodes ahead. So this being episode 10, they've definitely gotten some feedback from the show starting to air, or either starting to air or getting feedback on like initial impressions from early episodes. So I don't know, maybe they filmed this one differently, but typically once you hit episode 9, 10, 11, you're starting to get some of the feedback and building that into your tweaks.
That's interesting. And that's the one thing Game of Thrones always talks about, is they can't do that. The way their production runs, they have so many crews and everything that they can't change stuff last minute. And they did mention that they do that on shows. I just don't think they did it on this one. I think this was their plan all along. And it had been rumored for a long time too. So here we are in the Mirror Universe. We, just to recap, since our break, Lorca manipulated Stamets to do one more jump. They seem to have like completed their mission, and then Lorca was supposed to go back. The admiral died, and Lorca has to go back according to her orders. I don't know if she documented these orders anywhere. He has to go back for a full psych evaluation because she found out that he's nuts. He's sleeping with a gun and stuff. We also find out like Tyler. I almost said Taylor. Tyler there's something wrong with Tyler, which we find out this episode, and we'll get into that. And
we get confirmation on what we had all already kind of assumed, right? Like that's the worst kept. Like they foreshadowed that so much. Everyone was talking about that theory. I mean, like it couldn't have that bomb couldn't have dropped with a bigger thud, right? Because like, I mean, it was interesting the way they played it out in the episode. So I wouldn't say it didn't like work, but it's not like the reveal itself was any big thing. I think everyone kind of assumed that he was this sleeper agent.
It was how they revealed it. And again, we'll get to that when we get to that part. But it starts out with they're in all this rubble, and they're checking out all the hull sizes and designs and stuff. And they're like, it doesn't really match up. These are our ships, but they're not our ships, and we're exactly where we're supposed to be, but nothing is where it's supposed to be. So they're able to figure that out right away. And a Vulcan ship comes and almost fires on them, and they fire back. And then another starship, another Federation ship that we think is the Cooper shows up, and they're like, wait a minute, the Cooper's like getting refitted or something like that.
Right.
What the hell's the Cooper doing here? And fortunately for them, it's an audio only broadcast, which was very convenient for the script. And I'm just
which almost happened for us tonight. We almost had an audio only podcast going on.
We did. That was close. Close. And the first thing I was wondering is like, wouldn't the Cooper notice that the hull size and everything was different? And it says, the painting's different on the ship, but I guess they weren't paying attention at that point.
And they should be doing the same quantum readings that like the Discovery did, where they're like, everything in this universe has a very specific quantum, output, and these are all different. And that's how they figured out it was a different universe. Wouldn't they be able to reverse engineer that same data? Like, I don't know.
Well, they would, I would just thinking for the ship in particular, they would sense that it's different. They would put their scanners on, just automatically you think the ship would do that. But that's a little thing. It's not a big deal. Being in the Mirror Universe is kind of cool. Lorca figures it out really quick because pretty sure he was just planning to go there, or knew that was a possibility, you know.
Yeah.
And he's back to being like full on evil asshole. They kind of don't know. They're going back and forth with him. At least I'm going back and forth with him. Like, you know, you kind of like want to feel sorry for the guy, and like a couple of the things he's done, it's been kind of fucked up, but it's like, it's in war, kind of understandable. But the Stamets thing was a little much.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's like, how irredeemable is he going to be? You know?
Right. Yeah. You have to like admire his ability to navigate political situations and like wartime situations. But I think the question is always going to be like, at what cost, right? Which is the original question with Michael Burnham too, right? Like, you got your way at what cost, right? Like, your captain died. You basically started this whole war because of what you felt like, you know, in your mutinying, you know, the moment where she was a mutineer. And so like, I feel like that's kind of the theme, right? Like, you can respect the decision making because it's probably the right decision, but the cost is never a good, you know, it is not one that we as like human beings want to pay, I guess.
No, and he's going to be in a lot of trouble because he brought Michael Burnham on his ship, who didn't respect her friend's authority very much. So, yeah, I see Caesar. I see a bunch of knives going into this guy's back. Like, he doesn't have the love of the crew at all. You know, and they immediately get there. Another thing is with I'm forgetting Doug Jones's character. Why am I forgetting his name? Saru. Yeah, Saru is on the bridge, and they're in another universe surrounded by all this damage. They just got attacked, but his danger thingies go off.
A little delayed, right?
Yeah, when Tyler walks in.
Yeah.
So, and then we get the whole scene with Tyler, you know, talking to Laurel, and sorry, I dropped my notes. And I kind of thought they were going to stretch this out a little bit, but she at first I thought I was right. I'm like, oh, it's a Homeland thing. They just tortured him, you know, to where they turned him, but it's something way more than that. And he had she said the Klingon prayer, and it triggers him into doing something, but it doesn't look like it's fully sunk in.
Yeah,
whatever.
Like it worked, right? So it seems as if they thought that that he'd become Ash Tyler, and that would be his persona, and then they'd say these words, and he'd snap back to Vok, right? Or we're assuming Vok, but you know, the Klingon, the original Klingon that he was, right? They've turned him into this human, but when that happens, it doesn't revert completely. So he's kind of like in this limbo in between Ash and Klingon, you know, and Vok essentially. So I think that's a really interesting thing, is like this failed experiment at a sleeper agent, where he might be sometimes like a sleeper agent, you know, he might be totally doing what they want him to do, but he's resistant to it because it didn't take 100%. That's it. I don't know. Did you expect that? I didn't expect that that's how it was going to go. I thought he was just going to go full on evil, which he might do down the road, but it didn't in this one.
Well, and we talked about this a few podcasts back, and it was so long ago now that they're going to be stuck in this situation. I think they're going to be in the mirror universe for a while. I hope, anyway. That's the
rest of the season, at least most of the rest of this season.
If they spend the rest of the series there, that might actually fix the show. I can accept a lot of things if they just disappear and they're, you know, running around the mirror universe and just hunted. That would be, and then being part of a rebellion. That would be interesting. I mean, that's not the Star Trek everybody wanted, but the Star Trek everybody wanted is a million different things. Let's just admit that. And again, I'm with you. I am not a Trekker. I'm a casual fan now. I used to be a bigger Star Trek fan back in the day, not as much now. And so maybe that's why I can handle some of this stuff more. I know in past podcasts I haven't been able to, but there's certain things that still bug the crap out of me. But just within this episode, that with Tyler, that was very interesting science behind what they did to him, which I you know, it's kind of going with the show with the spore science, which is not science at all, by the way. It sounds like writing room theories.
Yeah,
that sound really good to writers who haven't written a lot of sci-fi. And I don't even know who wrote this episode. Jonathan Frakes
directed this episode. Yeah, he did an episode in the first part of the season too. Yeah, he's pretty good. I think I typically enjoy his stuff more than not when he as a director. So yeah, it's cool to have him.
So they got around the whole neural scan thing, like they planted something in his head because Starfleet obviously can scan for stuff like that now for brainwashing. And they crushed his bones and put Vok in his bone marrow. Well,
no, it sounds like they took the bones, like they crushed the bones up and so that they could reform them. And then that's why there's all this like scar tissue around all the organs, is probably because they had to, you would imagine, they basically had to insert them or trim them down. I'm assuming that they either had to make them smaller or find completely new ones from.
So they put like Tyler's body over Vok's bones, or those are Tyler's bones that they just. I didn't get again. I got to watch it again.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I think they took Vok's bones and then like other human organs or trimmed down Klingon organs to shape him. Right? They just reshaped it all
around like Tyler's nervous system. See, I have too many questions.
I don't think so
they Weapon X'd him basically, or do you think this is a weird way of cloning Tyler or making a Klingon? Yeah, this is bizarre.
I'm not sure Ash Tyler is like a dude. Like I feel like
that's what the doctor said.
So they like merged them, because I took it as like they turned Vok into Tyler, and so Tyler didn't exist before. Ash Tyler didn't exist before. And they turned Vok into, that's like his human persona. But you're saying, and then that might be true, that like there was an Ash Tyler and there was a Vok and they like merged them together.
Well, then why would there be a Tyler there? I mean, he would just be Vok looking like Tyler. So there has to be something of Tyler, like Tyler's brain. I don't know. For his memories to be memories to be leaking in and messing with this, there's got to be something of Tyler there. Again, I got to watch it again. It wasn't explained very clearly to me, but maybe you got to speak slow with me sometimes.
Yeah, okay? Me too, I guess. I interpreted it very differently.
I'll be interested to see what the people in the comments say. Well, by the way, we're not ignoring you. We will get to you right after we're done with the recap.
Vok's body with Tyler's personality implanted.
Yeah. It's, I don't know. I'm open to all theories. It's interesting to say the least.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's it. And what I was talking about before is what we talked about early on, was they're going to be in the situation where they're kind of under siege. So they're going to have to, eventually they're going to find out like Tyler is a Klingon, and that Laurel's going to get out, and they're all going to have to like work together, in the mirror universe somehow. And it, it'll lead to who knows what. But
what's going to happen when Michael has that, like when the reveal comes to Michael that like Vok and Ash type, like that her hubby is a sleeper agent, like that's she's not exactly the most stable. She's very reactionary, right? Like as a character. So I feel like that's going to set her off.
But I think they'll probably write it to where she'll figure it out and then figure out a way to fix it.
Yeah.
Because she's awesome. Sorry. But
she also had a fight with that dude. She had a harder time killing that Weasley captain guy than she did killing like Klingons on a Klingon ship. Yeah, that was weird, right? I don't know. I thought that was strange.
This was strange, but that was
cool scene.
The last fight was way more realistic. Yeah, yes. Then that's something acceptable than like this 7 foot, 400-pound Klingon.
So I have a feeling that I'm going to be able to ignore episodes 1 through 7 or 1 through 6 of the original part of this series. And I think I'm going to enjoy the series. Like if I just black out everything that happened in like the first 4, 5, 6 episodes up until that time loop episode happened and on, I feel like the series is going to be one that I enjoy, because I think I've enjoyed it since then, and I've enjoyed it more and more. So I think I'm just going to get rid of all those things that I hated about those from my brain as if it didn't happen, and start thinking of it as starting at around episode 6 or 7.
Well, you can do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't have to count it. Like, yeah, we don't have to count Last Jedi. You don't have to count it. Like, you could. It's your brain, man. You can accept what you want to accept. I'm going to take it one episode at a time. This one was good. I liked some of the aspects of it. I love. I'm really. I hate to say this, but I'm really into the Empire. I like their uniforms better. I like everything about them better. Even annoying Tilly was the captain. Saw that one coming a mile away.
Captain Killy.
Yeah, Captain Killy, which is funny and not at the same time. Yeah, that's. I mean, hearing stuff like that in Star Trek, we're just gonna have to get used to it, folks. Or just. Like I said, I think the people who truly hate the show stopped watching it a long time ago.
Yeah, and it's easy to stop watching something that's behind a paywall, right? Like if you really don't like it, it's like, fuck it, I'm not going to pay to watch something I don't like when there's nothing else on the service that I do like. So I think, I would imagine that they got a subscription hike and then shed a bunch of them, and they've got kind of the the most hardcore, like the new Star Trek fans are the only ones that are like fans of this specific show that have kept it. Although there is a lot of, watching all the old Star Trek things, like especially if you buy the the $10 subscription where you don't have commercials, to go back and watch like every Star Trek episode is pretty valuable to a Star Trek fan. I think it's pretty cool. Not that you can't just illegally get it, but it's a cool service.
Go on Netflix. I think they're still on Netflix too.
Are they really?
Yeah, that's why it makes no sense.
That's weird.
It really doesn't. There was a pretty okay. So they figured out the universe pretty quickly, and they haven't gotten caught. They had to replicate all the uniforms, and they find out that Lorca is on the run for trying to murder the Emperor, and and Burnham's character is missing, and she was the captain of the Shinzu. We don't know who the Emperor is. They haven't been able to find out any information. My guess is going to be Michelle Yeoh. That's just, I don't know. It's just a guess. I have no idea.
That's a great guess. I love that guess.
And
think about that. I think that's a really, really good. Or Stamets, right?
Well, that's the thing, is like, that's how you're going to get out of there. By the way, spoiler warning, everybody. You find the other Stamets and you plug them into the spore drive, and there you go. But there's still, like, I think they could have a lot of fun with this, and as long as they stick with it, not just a couple episodes. I mean, like forever. Like I would like, I'd be okay with this just being in the mirror universe. But they mentioned the USS Defiant.
Yeah.
Okay, which I'm like, oh, where have I heard of that before? And then it's like, oh yes, the Tholian Web. So if you haven't watched the Tholian Web, I'm sure everybody who's watching has watched that. That's my favorite original series Star Trek episode, and it's the one with the least Kirk, I know, but it's just such a cool, him being a ghost going the whole time. It's freaking hilarious, but it's a great episode. And that ship, the crew's missing, and it blinks out of existence. And honestly, I can't even remember why. The last time I saw it was years ago. But they mentioned it being in that universe. And it's on the records there. So they're going to use the Defiant to get back without having to use the spore drive, because the spore drive is offline due to Stamets being turning into like a Q. And again, it's I mentioned this episode before, and I forgot the name of it. And it's got the character of Gary in it, and it's the guy who becomes kind of a god. And that character was always kind of loosely connected to Q, omnipotent powers, and his eyes got all glow, not glow, but glossy, white, and like so there, that's another shout out to that episode. And when the Doctor tried to subdue Stamets, he threw him across the room. So something definitely, so both things are happening. I don't know how a lot of again, purist Star Trek fans feel about this. They might feel like it's kind of sacrilege. You know what? I kind of thought it was cool. Yeah, it was fan service, but I thought it was kind of cool.
Yeah, I think I don't. I feel like as long as you're just touching on these things and you're not like trying to rewrite it or recraft it or reform the narrative, I think that most people will enjoy having these things tied together. Now, with the large caveat that no one wants a giant piece of shit tied to something they love, right? So you have to make sure that what you're doing is at least serviceable. But this specific episode and the way they're treating the mirror universe seems to be cool, that it's like linked to the mirror universe that we've seen throughout other series. I think that this episode was the first one that really felt like it was the show that I thought I was getting originally, right? Like a little bit darker, like the look of it has changed, it's updated, it's interesting in like visual quality, but it like that opening scene, the cold open on the bridge, I feel like we heard every member of the bridge say something in their role, and I don't think we had ever really gotten that before. And so I really enjoyed the fact that this felt like they were, you know, really drawing on what on the previous seasons of Star Trek in a very real, you know, tonal way in this specific episode. So,
I think it helps having Jonathan Frakes direct. Because I think so. I know some of the people involved in the show weren't even in sci-fi before. They were just doing Desperate Housewives and stuff like that. So they aren't aware that like every crew member, we're used to every crew member talking, and we know that we got Jones was the new crew member. I haven't seen the guy before, but he's got a couple lines, and it's like, yeah, it felt like a fuller, you know, and they had to do that because when you start going in the mirror universe and you're seeing mirror versions of everybody, you need to like see the mirror versions of everybody. And since I don't know anybody, I don't know what the mirror version is going to be other than like your hair is going to be a little different. So what? And there were, you know, and there were no goatees. There is one in the previews, but there were no goatees.
Yep. Yes. Yeah. I'm excited for that.
Yeah. But they did get in that like topical stuff, John. They did the PTSD. And, you know, now that I think about it more, I don't know when they filmed this episode, and the totalitarian thing, it was there in the mirror universe. I don't know if they called it fascist back then. I can't remember. Same thing though. I mean, it's no different, but you know,
there was a scene that read like a political ad from today where they were like, he's xenophobic. The emperor is xenophobic, the fear of other, and like, we are the other, you know, like it felt very like the wording, the specific wording felt like buzzwords, right? It felt buzzwordy, but it only did it in the one scene that introduced it, right? Like that was the only one. And then from there, it was just your typical fascist. So maybe that was a reshoot. I don't know, but it felt different, right? In description. But then in application of what we saw, like I loved that whole montage or the whole sequence where Lorca's like, to infiltrate this, we must like understand it and blend in. And like, I thought that that it went a really cool direction after that. So I was worried. I was very, very worried that it was going to be like a political ad in the mirror universe, but it was only that for like a second.
Well, that's been the worry from the show from the get-go, and there's many who will argue that it's been like that, and it's definitely had its moments. I'm not going to deny that, but it hasn't been as bad as I thought it would be, to be honest with you. Or I'd be out. I wouldn't even watch it. I ideologues, you know, sneaking stuff into my entertainment. It's been a thing for quite some time, and you know, I just don't buy it. I don't read it. I'm out. You know, it's like I just want to be entertained. If I want the news, I'll watch the damn news. So Lorca gets it pretty bad. He's on the run, and they used him for bait to basically confirm to the Cooper, I guess, that they're legit, and to find a very convenient excuse to bring Burnham back because she is missing. And it seemed like, so she got her ship back, and she used Lorca as a prisoner, and they locked him up in that electroshock, whatever the hell it was.
Those were cool as hell, man. Like they walk into like the brig, and it's been turned into this like torture chamber, and the main torture is this like electricity shock with everyone like screaming, like you hear the screams when you enter it. And they had like the main one reserved for him. So is Lorca basically just, has he like, we see the scene where Michael is just kind of chilling in her room talking about how it's been a rough day. Is Lorca like being tortured downstairs while she's hanging out with Ash, Tyler?
Yeah, that whole time they cut back to that, and he's going through that whole time.
Yeah, like, those agonizers, man. Those are crazy.
Yeah, and agonizers. Thank you. And yeah, there must be something that keeps them from dying in there. But that, you know, that was interesting. Yeah, and she's like kicking off her boots. She's like,
Yeah,
she's a tough day at work, honey. Well, she doesn't have much love for him, and she's always giving him like kind of the stink eye. That's what gave me the idea is like, dude, you're gonna get stabbed in the back at some point. You know, you're in a different universe on a crew that doesn't like you very much. And you have Michael Burnham who betrayed her friend. So I would need a little more than, are we cool? We're cool. Okay,
yeah,
good. All right. Yeah. No.
well, and when Michael takes the captain's chair, I was like, wow, this is a better situation for her. Like, yeah, she's gonna have to like mercilessly kill people for the rest of her existence in the mirror universe, but like, hey, everyone reveres her. She's got the captaincy. Like, whatever, you know. It seems like a lateral move for her at
Be
this
careful what you ask for. Yeah.
Lorca's out of the picture, you know. So yeah, is there a do you think that there's a threat that Lorca, he's already a little crazy, and now he's basically going through like electroshock therapy for hours or days or months or however long he's going to be down there. Do you think he comes out of this even more?
I got a spoilery prediction here, and I think he kind of foreshadowed it. That he said he thought he would. I hoped I would find a better version of myself here. Wouldn't it be interesting if this Lorca, I don't know, dies in the mirror universe and they bring back the rebel who's actually a good guy? I don't know.
That would be awesome.
Yeah, that would.
That's the other thing about the mirror universe at this point in the show that's so compelling is that like we don't love a lot of these characters, you and I. Some fans may, but like aside from maybe Tilly, like there's not Saru, maybe there's not a lot of characters that we're like in love with, and they could just basically swap them out for like different versions that we actually might like. So they're like focus testing the first few episodes, like, okay, people don't like Lorca. Well, they haven't met Lorca because we met him in like the third episode or fourth episode. But you know, they don't like Michael. Then they can just literally kill him off in the mirror universe and bring a different version of him in that like fans actually like.
What if they actually switch places with the other crew and they went to the Discovery's universe, which I don't. Again, I was confused by that a little bit, and then nobody noticed over there.
Yeah.
They're just like, oh,
Captain Killy's like going on a murder spree on the Discovery. And they're like, oh, Discovery's gone.
She's off her pills.
Yeah.
Tilly's off her pills. She is a little bipolar, Tilly.
Oh God.
So yeah, you want to get some comments, man?
Yeah, sure.
Loading up. I don't want to get too far behind.
Well, there's a lot of there's some general discussions. One of them is just about writing and like what is good writing.
It's subjective.
Yeah, exactly. Like if generally speaking, everyone liked every episode, does that mean the writing is good? And vice versa. If people don't connect with something, does that mean the writing is necessarily bad? Right. And so is it all subjective? Is it all based on like what people like and what they don't? And I don't know. I think that's a overly simplification of it.
Yeah. This one's too divisive to say it's been good, consistent writing all the way through. I think that'd be really hard to defend. Yes. Has it been complete crap all the way through? No, I think that's not true either. They really made some dumb decisions to begin with. Okay. You pissed off the Star Trek community by changing the fan film guidelines. Now people were taking advantage of the situation. They were making money off of somebody else's IP. That is against the law. Okay. And you shouldn't do that. And yeah, there's the argument, well, they were passionate. I think most people were passionate, but I think the guy at the top who was making money was more about making money. He might have started out passionate, but it turned into I was making money. And it also is a little bit of they were embarrassed that guy who was making money was making something better than they were. And shutting him down. I think there's a lot of truth to that. So I think both things are true. Yeah, like doing like Star Trek Continues, which the Axanar was awesome. Okay, that trailer for it was awesome, and Star Trek Continues was really, really good. I think the guidelines were a little too harsh. I think they could have like given them hour episodes. Like, don't let them make a movie, but like 30 minutes. I don't know. I think that was a bad way to start. Okay. Then you put it behind a paywall. and then the little stuff. Then you make Michael Burnham related to Spock, and then you change the Klingons. That's 4 things. Like, you put yourself in a hole you didn't need to put yourself into.
Right.
Like, that was 4 things you didn't need to do. Now, okay, the fan thing that needed to get worked out. I think I think it got worked out a little too quickly, and they should have talked a little more. But it is Paramount and CBS's fault for letting it go on so long.
Yeah. And I think the paywall was also necessary. Like, I think that CBS, all of these networks need to start moving things behind these, not for like consumer point of view. Like, as a consumer, I don't love it, but I think that the future of cord cutting and the way everything is kind of going, CBS All Access is a trail burner, front, whatever. It's at the beginning of
Trailblazer.
Yeah, Trailblazer, and I think that I think it was smart to get some compelling existing IPs behind that paywall to bring people into your app. Right? They needed to do a better job of it. They needed to provide the content needed to be better. They needed to provide more content once you got behind the paywall. But I think that the idea of this was always the idea. Like, the Star Trek came second, CBS All Access came first, and that's the major problem here.
If I was going to put Star Trek behind a paywall, I would have done a lot more research than they did. I would have been way nicer to the fans. I would have been very careful with how the fans were going to think about things. And the last thing I want is a divided fan base. Now, you're going to have fans who are going to back anything no matter what. But the thing is, that's not the fans that are going to make you money. They're always there. It's the casual fan that you want. And for one, you pissed off some of your oldest fans, and like, some of them are going to be pissed off anyway, no matter what you did. Okay. But they kind of went out of their way to piss off a little extra, in my opinion. They did not need to do this. So to go ahead and do the paywall thing after you did some really ridiculous things was dumb. And it hurt them. And I don't think this thing is taken off for them gangbusters. For one, they're not talking about it. For two, they're still offering free week. It's the commercial version, but you're paying to see commercial. That's another thing that pisses me off, is I'm paying for something and I still have to watch commercials.
Yeah, I think that's stupid. See, I bought the commercial free one because I use CBS All Access for other things. I do a lot of work with the Survivor and Big Brother podcast that I work with. So CBS All Access is more than just a way to watch Star Trek for me. So I've always paid for I've had it since the beginning when they did Big Brother, the All Access version of Big Brother. And I have the ad-free version so I don't think of it as paying for then watching stuff with ads, but that's exactly what it is if you don't pay the extra $4 or $5. So yeah, that I think is a huge mistake. You should not have ads behind a paywall, just flat out. That's stupid. Hulu did that too. Hulu, I pay for the ad-free version of Hulu because of that. Like, it's just ridiculous.
What's up, Ghost World and Arturo? A couple of regulars there. What's up, guys?
So there was some discussion about who the Emperor is. There was somebody said Kirk, somebody said Khan. I thought those were interesting. Maybe the mirror universe is in a different times, is time shifted in some way that they're not like babies or not born yet. But like, how old did we decide Kirk is at around the time of Discovery? Is that a thing? Is he a kid?
No, it was 10 years before the Enterprise, so he's like in the academy.
Okay,
I think, or maybe an officer. It was only 10 years, so maybe he's an officer at some point.
But Michelle Yeoh is the most likely.
That'd
be funny if it were Kirk or Khan. That'd be
freaking great. And then who would you get? Who would you get? Chris Pine?
Yeah,
you get Chris Pine in there. That would be interesting.
Yeah,
that would be really interesting. And again, this is supposed to be in the real timeline, but it's still shot and completely looks like the Kelvin universe. Like, Frakes mellowed out after the first 10 minutes in this episode, but dude, it was like, I was like, and then the whole circling around, I was like, whoa, dude, stop. Okay.
And it was all like gunmetal and gold. It was off-put. It's like, I actually had the same thought you had, which was just like, this is crazy that this is a prequel. Like, it doesn't even look like the same type of metal. And it's 10 years, they retrofit every single ship with like silver and chrome when everything here is like gunmetal and gold, like rose gold. It's just weird to me, but whatever.
Sarek's goatee is dope.
Yeah.
Well, at least he had one, which is good. I don't know.
There's also a theory that the Stamets doctor boyfriend who got killed, or maybe husband, I don't know, but he got killed this episode, that they find the mirror universe one and bring him back instead. That's probably going to happen, even though I really want that actor off of this show. He's very
because boyfriends are just interchangeable.
You know? Yeah, he won't notice. Stamets won't notice. And Stamets is like all seeing, and he'll know, right? He's omnipotent at this point.
Well, he said, "Don't go into the palace."
Yes.
Don't
what palace is he talking about?
You know what? Now that I think about it, Michael Burnham's going to be emperor. Who am I kidding? They're going to make her emperor.
But won't they know that? Yeah, that's probably true. But wouldn't they like? Is it like there's this emperor that nobody knows who it is?
Well, no, like nobody knows who he is. It's shadowy. So maybe somebody conquered him, and maybe that's why she's missing. She took over in a silent coup or something like that. But just the way this show's going, they'll make her the emperor.
Or Lorca. It could be Lorca too. I mean, because the emperor is not very nice. So maybe it's somebody we're supposed to not think too highly.
I'm going to stick with my Lorca is going to be better in this universe. So
I hope so. Emperor. Yeah, I hope so. Is he actually Scottish, or like was that accent? What's his original accent?
No, he's English.
He's English. Okay, so he just did a Scottish. His pretty good.
I don't
Scottish
know,
accent.
like if it's like Welsh or anything like that. I can't, because there's a lot of different English. I don't think he's like a Londoner, but yeah, he's definitely English. I don't know. He's really good at. He was good in Harry Potter. A little aristocratic accent. So
the other big discussion
is
Emperor Palpatine as the Emperor. That'd be awesome. There's also a discussion just about kind of like purity, like the purity tests of fans, like who are the real fans? Is this turning off the real fans? And I agree. I hate purity tests, but I don't think you can deny that the people that you're going to piss off with continuity problems are usually the people who care about continuity problems. Right. And those typically are the most hardcore fans. So,
and those are the ones that are going to buy most of the shit.
And those are people who are going to be spending most of the money. And so I think that it's not really a purity test so much as it's like if you want to why would you try to start from scratch when you already have a built-in fan base? Like let's at least give the fan base like what they generally want from the show, and tweak it in ways that you want to tweak it as far as creative, whatever creative ideas you have, but don't like totally F them over either. So I don't know. I don't like purity tests, but I also think there is a thing where they like these companies, these big studios don't understand their fan bases and do things to completely shun them.
They don't. I mean, let's not forget, Hollywood is not like cutting edge at all. Okay. They're really safe and boring and basic, and they can get away with stuff like The Force Awakens and not to totally bash on that, because you brought the original cast members back. That's why everybody ran out to those movies and they got insane money, is because Han Solo, Luke Skywalker were back on screen. They're going to find out in a couple years that they should have like stretched that out a little bit. Like maybe not have off Han Solo so soon. I'm not saying not off him. And the repercussions are going to be a couple years down the road. They're going to look at the books now and go, hey, everything's great. Everything's great. Well, if you just looked at the books of Superman versus Batman, they were okay. They were pretty good. And then the Blu-ray sold really well, but it was not a well-received movie in any way, shape, or form. So, that's what Hollywood is. They're just about the numbers, and they could give up crap about fan bases, to be honest with you. And the Star Trek one is the one you have to handle with kid gloves a little bit. Okay. Yeah. Sorry folks, but they're serious. Okay. And that's cool. It's also not as big as Star Wars is. Star Wars is right. Like a million times bigger than Star Trek. Star Trek's been big, but never huge.
But that's the thing that I think bugs me so much, is that Star Wars is such a broad, like I can understand making just making broad movies for Star Trek and taking these, not risks, but like doing things differently. Anyway, I can see why you would do that when you have such a large tent audience with something like Star Wars. It's a broad blockbuster movie franchise. Star Trek is like known as like the sci-fi show for sci-fi fans. And so trying to make a broad show for like the most sci-fi fans, I think is a mistake. Like you need someone who understands it to make it. And that's where I think this has gone astray.
Yeah, you could not be more right on that one. Is bringing in people who understand it. Like if The Expanse was made by the director of I can't, like ER, it just wouldn't work, or the writers of ER, and you like give them this book to adapt. It's like no, and that's kind of what they did with Akiva Goldsmith, Batman and Robin. How does that guy even get work anymore? They shun people for so much less in this town. But that guy, if you go to his IMDb, man, he's been working solid, and like he's not written anything that like is good. I mean, he's done some average stuff, but he has not done anything that warrants the work he gets. I don't understand it. Maybe he's got pictures of somebody, and maybe he's just a perfectly nice guy. Maybe he's just super charming. I have no idea.
Yeah. But I would say that this episode specifically of Star Trek, I feel like is kind of back on the rails again. Like I felt like this episode captured what I expect, like what at least generally my expectations for a Star Trek show. It did things that there were moments that I didn't love, but as a whole, I felt like this was good Star Trek episode. No, I feel like it's back on. It's back. Like I am more excited now than I was.
If they maintain an audience through some pretty rough episodes, let's be honest, people. The people who are here are not going to go anywhere now because like that. This was a good episode. I would have gotten to this episode a lot faster. I could think of like 3 you could have just cut out from, and I would have just gotten to this episode faster because this was interesting. It really was. And honestly, the Michael Burnham character was, she was, I can't pronounce her first name. I can't even remember. But the person who played Michael Burnham from Walking Dead, she did a better job this episode. She's still not great, but she did a better. Everybody did. It's everything.
I felt more connected to all of the characters. Agreed. I totally agree.
Maybe time has made me more forgiving that month. No, I don't know.
I think that this felt different. Honestly, I feel like this episode felt different from a character point of view for sure. Totally. Johnny Papa says Saru might be a rebel. I would love to see Saru as a rebel against the Empire in the universe. I think that could be really badass.
After watching Shape of Water, I just reminded how much I love Doug Jones. Okay. Yeah. I met him at a con once, super, super nice, and really talkative, and more talkative than me. And he was really good in that movie, by the way. The movie's okay. It's okay. But I love that, I don't know, the look of his character. I'm getting used to it. It wasn't like the most pleasing to the eye at first, but I'm getting used to it more. And his little danger, his little spider sense. I was still off today, but maybe that's the bigger danger is Tyler. And if that's actually what happens, like they meshed 2 people with Tyler, that's kind of messed up in a way that could be really interesting, I think. As long as we don't get too far into the science of it and explaining, just keep it vague, and I'm fine with that. But yeah, I enjoyed this episode. I'm like, I liked it too. When you said I like this one, I'm like, you know what? I liked it too. I can't believe it, but I liked it. So yeah,
it's funny because there are still moments where I'm like, oh yeah, this is Star Trek Discovery, not other Star Trek.
Sure.
And those definitely like sometimes annoy me still. But I always kind of like look at the end of an episode, my criteria is like, hey, was I entertained all the way through? Like, did I find that to be like worth 45 minutes of my time to sit here and like watch a show? Did I enjoy my experience in watching the show? And I have to say, for the first half of this season, I was like powering through to come on this podcast with you and feeling like I had to kind of sugarcoat some of my feelings. And this episode, watching this episode, I was happy to have an episode where I didn't have to do any of that I just enjoyed my experience watching it. I couldn't wait to talk to you about the theories I had. I couldn't wait to pick your brain about the mirror universe and like how it tied into past episodes. Like it was, I had a lot of fun tonight with this and I was dreading it, quite honestly. And so if this is my Sunday night with you for the rest of Star Trek Discovery, I am like super happy. Super, super happy. And Johnny Papa says, can we stop comparing this to the Orville? And I think this was the first episode. I didn't feel like comparing to the Orville. I felt like this was what I want. Like I couldn't look at the Orville and be like, I wish this were more like the Orville. Remember when the Orville did that cool episode? Like this was the first one where I was like, this is badass. I like it. This is great. I can compare the Orville to this, and that's I think that's a good place to be.
I think we look at them as two separate shows, both honoring the idea of Star Trek while not being exactly Star Trek for what it used to be. And I don't know if you could ever go back to that, because frankly, the Star Trek in the 90s wasn't working anymore. It got really boring and drab and sciencey and blah, and that's, listen, back then, I don't know how old any of you are out there. I'm pushing 50. So I was part of the get rid of Berman. I hated Berman towards the end. He was so freaking boring. Everything about his episodes were boring. And I know that's sacrilege in some, but like at the time, like when Enterprise came out, people were just like, ugh. I did watch the last two seasons and yeah, they were pretty good. But it's because Berman kind of let go a little bit and it got sterile. I am an original series fan with the swashbuckling Kirk, and I love Patrick Stewart. I love Next Generation.
That's the thing. I'm a Next Generation fan because I love I like the like large world exploration. Like I loved the scientific discovery aspect. That's why when this was called Discovery, I was so excited because like my favorite Star Trek is Next Generation, which felt like less of an adventure show and more of like a space exploration show.
It got procedural for me. I mean, it had some great episodes, the Spock crossover, and it had a great final episode. And I don't want to put, it's my third favorite. I like DS9. Which I did not like at the time. It's something I liked later, when
in the comments, let me know. Cause like after Next Generation, my Star Trek knowledge is pretty lacking. So in the comments, let me know what I should watch. Some of your favorite, maybe seasons, episodes, like as specific as you want to get. Like let me know what I should be digging into. Cause I wanna get more Star Trek knowledge. I feel like my X-Men knowledge is there for the Gifted podcast and my Runaways knowledge is there for the Runaways podcast. I want to feel that way about Star Trek.
To respond to one comment, I only caught part of it there. Sorry, but Next Generation was consistently good after the third season. The first season was not consistently good. And the second season was meh. It got better. Halfway through, it started kicking butt. It finally decided it found its legs in season 3, but it was a lot like Discovery, it was a lot like Discovery. Now I remember arguing with friends after we saw the first episode, because at the time I was like, I was going to love it no matter what. My friend was like, it kind of sucked. I'm like, what? Crazy, blah, blah, and then, we watched the whole first season and the whole first, other than Tasha Yar dying, spoiler, it wasn't very memorable. And, but I was defending it at the time, but I went back. It's not that good, but it turns into a great show. Don't get me wrong. It turns into a great show.
It's funny because you and I, our age isn't that different, but I feel like 90s, I was young enough in the 90s that I was coming at it from kids' eyes, and you were looking at it from adult eyes. And so a lot of the 90s entertainment is where you and I have I haven't watched The Next Generation since I was maybe 17, 15, 14. So I have such a different idea of what it is from what it actually is probably. That's something I want to go back and watch at some point to see.
Oh, yeah. And that's why it's just not even fair to Discovery to compare it to stuff like that, because it's been so freaking long. And I know some people, but the repeated views on Next Generation, I mean, I've watched it again. I don't know. I still think the original series holds up the best. It does. And maybe it's down to they put that one on film and the quality is, I don't know. I just have a hard time rewatching. I watch my favorite ones, and that's it.
I feel like a recording where I come on these and I'm just like, just tell good stories. And that's what was so good about the original series episodes that I've seen. It's just like everything was like interesting storytelling, interesting characterization. And it wasn't bogged down by a lot of continuity stuff that maybe some of the shows get bogged down.
No. And Generation, credit it broadened the Star Trek, universe more than anything. And
so Deep Space Nine,
I still miss it. I wish there was
one
another
that most
movie.
people are saying to watch.
Oh God, watch Deep Space Nine. Hell yeah, so good.
Sweet. I'll start there and then and go from there. Yeah, I will watch them all. I just didn't know where I wanted. Like I've seen a lot of Next Generation in the original series, so I didn't want to like go back and duplicate stuff that I've seen. But I do need to go back and watch those for a more comprehensive look. But I think I may start at Deep Space Nine and then go from there.
Yeah, someday when you get caught up in everything, definitely check out the last 2 seasons of Enterprise too. They're pretty good.
Sounds like a plan.
I was very surprised with that, but yeah, it was a good episode tonight. I know, and and the comparisons to Orville or the Orville, I love the Orville, but it's a different show. It's a totally different show. So I mean, there are always going to be comparisons, though. People, you just tune it out. That's all I can say.
Because you know what the Orville is missing? It's missing gold-plated
armor,
shoulder bras.
Hell yeah.
Lopsided shoulder bras.
Everything about that. I want Captain Killy. I want the real one, though, not the bipolar one.
We're going to meet Captain Killy, the real one. I can't wait for that. That'll be good.
No, they've definitely, I think they can fix the show with this. I really do. I don't know if they can win over people, the rage quitters, but and I don't even mean to put them down. Like, I can understand why you're out. I totally can. Believe me. I've done that with I've done that with the show that we used to cover, which we won't be covering anymore. I have rage quit Doctor Who, so I'm done with Doctor Who forever. I love what I watched before, but I'm done. I'm out. And it wasn't even the girl thing. It was just the last 3 seasons were just so bad.
Agreed.
So bad. So I understand.
And we kind of rage quit Walking Dead. We don't cover that, and it seems like something we should cover. And we did that with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. too. So usually it takes a little longer, but I can understand why people didn't want to give Star Trek Discovery.
Agreed. Hero Zero. F Doctor Who now for real. I wish they would just end it. And that's how after I watched that Christmas episode, I'm like, okay, done. And I know it, and I'm one of those guys, like, you don't want to piss off, because I actually the Tenet, like, their action figures I'm a huge action figure fan, as you can tell, were really good. They had good toys, good collectibles, their side stuff, their audio dramas and everything kicked ass. They were so good, and I'm out. Not going to buy any of that stuff anymore. I'm done. If something Tenet comes out, if they do a Tenet thing, I'll check it out. But that's it. I mean, that's what it would take to get me back. So don't be surprised to see David Tennant guest starring next season in Doctor Who. But as far as this show goes, hey, let's not throw the dirt on it yet.
How many episodes is the rest of the season going to be?
The rest of the season is going to be. You might even want to read a comment while I'm looking.
Okay. Let's see. I can't read any of that stuff about.
Sure, you can. Well, I mean, just I can imagine what it is. All right, so there is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 more episodes after tonight, and it's The Wolf Inside, Vaulting Ambition, What's Past is Prologue, The War Without, The War Within, Will You Take My Hand?
So how many is that?
5.
5 more.
5 more to go.
This is so crazy. Okay, this has been such a roller coaster for me, Gary. Like, in the lead up to Star Trek Discovery, I was really excited about covering this show. Like, I was all about it. And then we saw, you weren't. And then we watched the first few episodes, and we were both kind of like, do we keep going with, like, oh, this isn't what we expected it. And then like I said, we got to a couple of those middle episodes and I was like, oh, it's getting a little better. It still has problems, but I never was really like looking forward to it. And so when it was coming back this early in January, I was kind of like, oh God, here we go again. We've got so many shows on Monday. Now we're going to have another show on Sunday. And then we saw this episode and like, now I'm back to almost feeling what I felt at the beginning when we were getting news. I almost feel like it's a new Star Trek show to be excited about.
It felt really different.
Yeah,
it felt really different. So maybe they got the message. Well, I know they did. Okay, I talked about it the last podcast. This is like, yes, this is my friend's sister's best friend knows somebody who worked with it. About it was my friend who was a doctor. His brother knows the president of CBS, and they're big nerds, by the way. That's how we're friends, is they're big nerds. We met through the comic store. And he said that the president of CBS, they were not happy with the initial stuff from Star Trek Discovery. That's partially what led that they were constantly fighting with Fuller, apparently, constantly. And a lot of the stuff you're seeing now is what Fuller actually wanted. And they're changing that, but they were not happy. And they, I was told by my friend, just like, wait and see. I mean, that's the standard answer. Okay. But
yes.
Like, no, you'll like what happens. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, I'm there, man. I'm there now. This is a show. I am, it's like I said, if I just delete the first 5 or 6 episodes, this is, in the middle of my like shows I want to watch, like I'm looking forward to watching each week. So I'm happy. Good. This is a good one. Yay, guys. We have a Star Trek show again.
We do. And we have Orville. We have them both. We have
2 Star Trek shows again. Yeah. This is great.
And we're going to be getting another Star Trek show down the line, run by Nicholas Meyer. That's going to be the shit. So I hold out for that, if anything, man.
Sweet.
Make sure there's no other quotes in there. Other than there's so many people in here, guys. Thanks for joining the chat.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. We've had 40 to 50 people in the chat tonight, which is a lot for a recap for us. Although it's definitely, the support is growing, and we love you guys for it. If you haven't already subscribed, we hit 1,000 over New Year's, and it's all because of you guys. So thank you for everything. You can follow me on Twitter. I'm at Jon Reed 16. Gary is at Nerdrotics. All that stuff will be in the show.
I read what Hero Zero read.
Yeah.
That was funny, Hero. Blasted Health, Hero Zero, Stress Free K. I'm trying to go through some names here. Charles, I don't know if Jody's in there. Darth Barbecue, and of course Ghost World,
Arturo,
and Arturo. Did Arturo say Disney's gonna fuck this one up?
No, I beat him to it.
You did? That's good. Everybody, thanks for joining. Redeemer 216. I'm trying to read all your names. Thanks for joining and participating. Sorry we couldn't get to all the comments. I really do like to, since you bothered to write them, I like to read them. And if we do an interactive podcast on Fridays at 8 p.m., you can join in and we just talk to you. You guys guide the podcast and tell us where to go.
Yeah, we had a 4-hour anniversary podcast this past Friday. They're usually a little shorter than that, but not much. And it's just fun times.
All right. Did you say what your Twitter was? I can't remember.
Yeah, it's at Jon Reed 16. Gary's at Nerdrotics. The next show, Charles, we're doing Runaways tomorrow. No, Gifted. Wait, Runaways and Gifted tomorrow, or is
Gifted skipped a week?
Gifted. Okay, so we've got Runaways tomorrow, the finale. That's great. Then that's good that Gifted skipped a week, because we only have one at a time then, because Gifted will come back the week after that. So Runaways tomorrow, and then you guys are doing Happy and X-Files
on Wednesday.
X-Files. Yeah.
Doubleheader on Wednesday, and then Friday will be the live stream free for all, whatever it is. Yeah.
And then starting February 1st, we'll have the Dungeons and Dragons show called The Campaign that will drop the first few episodes on Nerdrotic, and that'll be over on TPK Games on Twitch. So that's also coming up, which we had our first tech rehearsal this past week, and it went really well. I might post some clips of that one, because there was some funny stuff.
Cool. Yeah. When's that starting? Do we know?
February 1st.
February 1st. Excellent. Man, we got a lot of TV covered then too. Whew.
Yep.
Yeah, it's picking up. It's picking up. It looks like we're going to get The Expanse back in March. I'm very excited. So yeah, I will take us out. May this everybody. Thanks again. Thank you for the kind words. I appreciate it. And may the small folks sing songs of your greatness.
Awesome. Bye, everybody.